What's up, guys? We are Tottenham TV here. Welcome to another episode of the We Are Tottenham TV podcast. I'm Sim, here with my brother Ben as usual, and great pleasure to have David Domb on the channel today.
Evening, gents.
Yeah, amazing. This is the day after the night before. I'm still absolutely, I don't know what to think at the moment. I'm still watching the highlights.
Did either one of you sleep last night? Or...
No, we got back at 4 or 5 in the morning, and I think I had about 2 hours sleep. Then I was up at 8 o'clock editing the vlog from last night. So no, is the answer to that.
I'm not overly surprised. I mean, it took me a little wee while to settle afterwards as well.
Yeah, I'm still trying to settle now. Like, I'm still absolutely buzzing from that last night. I thought it was absolutely sensational. From my heart is still like pounding. You know, it's like
we are watching those highlights back. I've never experienced that at a football match before. Those just range of emotions, literally not one emotion was not touched yesterday while watching that game. Was absolutely making it to the semi-finals in that manner was something I never thought I'd ever experience. But let's go through. Obviously, we went into the game, as I would still say after the first leg, 1-0 down, still quite big underdogs, even in the tie. So 1-0 up in the tie. Still quite big underdogs, I think, to go through.
Yeah. And
obviously we're going down after 3 minutes. We see in the lineup, we see quite an attacking lineup from Spurs.
I looked at the odds before the game to see who was favourites to qualify, not the game result. And Man City were 1.6 or something, and Spurs were 2.2. So
you can see.
I think when I actually took into account our injury list going into the games, this is prior to Sissoko going off as well. I saw the team and in my mind, I knew Llorente was going to do something of note last night. Good or bad, didn't know what it was.
He was going to do something.
He was going to do something which either made everyone go, oh, of course, why has this happened again? Because I know a lot of Spurs fans haven't rated him during his time with us. I'm not in that category.
No,
whereas
I think neither of us are.
I think I just felt maybe having a target man or someone that would hold up the ball, provided we got runners in and around him, he would certainly be of use. Then obviously I saw Company was starting, and I thought actually playing with two perhaps nippier forwards might cause him one or two problems, as was the case, particularly first half an hour or so. I could never have imagined what I was about to see unfold.
That first half an hour was something special, but obviously going 1-0 down after 3 minutes, you're fearing the worst. You're like, okay, they've already wiped out that advantage after 3 minutes. Everyone knew, you said it even before the game, keep it tight that first 20 minutes. Everyone was banging on about those first 20 minutes. Like, keep it tight, don't concede any goals, and maybe we can get through. And then 1-0 down after 3 minutes, you think, okay, this is Spurs all over again. This is literally the most Spursy thing of all time.
After 25 minutes, it's like we had watched 2 games of football. I was completely all over the place. I didn't know what to do with myself. What was it after 25 minutes? It was 3-2 down. It was like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah, but I'm saying 1-0 down after 3 minutes as well. You're thinking this is Spurs. Yeah, exactly.
And we've just seen the lead completely wiped away. Yeah. We had a 3-goal cushion essentially at one stage as well.
Yeah.
But of course, it's typical with Spurs. It's not always easy supporting Spurs as well. But in years gone by, even at 2-1 up, we'd have just capitulated.
Especially against a team like that.
Particularly when the equaliser went in. So, full credit to this particular group, or maybe it's just the mindset instilled by this particular, backroom staff and the coaching staff and everything that goes with it. I'm just, I'm still flying. I'm still thinking about it. I'm still getting goosebumps thinking about it. Actually, I'm just thinking about the sheer emotion in the 90th minute. I've got to say, actually, I was watching the game with my brother at home, and he. In anger, he flicked off the telly when he thought Sterling had scored. And he threw it onto the couch. Then, as I went back to the couch and went to pick the remote up to just turn it back on, because I just had to see it, just in case, you never know. I spilled beer all over the sofa, just as you do. That wasn't in anger, that was just me being clumsy. Flipped the telly back on. We didn't get the picture straight away. We actually had the sound, for whatever reason, it just wasn't working straight away. And we could hear, the first thing we heard was the commentator saying, but hang on a minute, the quick VAR check for offside. I thought, hang on a minute, no way.
After all we'd been through that game, to have it go down to that last minute. But obviously Sonny equalised after what, 5 minutes? Which was sloppy defending from City.
Sonny went straight up the other end and scored, didn't he?
Yeah, pretty. After like 5 minutes, it was 1-1. and then 2-1 up, as you say, after 9 minutes, which was the most incredible start to a game. We at this point we have a 3-goal advantage. We're thinking, okay, we're actually looking pretty good now. And then after 11 minutes, it's 2-2. Okay, that's 1 goal back. We've still got a 2-goal advantage. And then 20 minutes in, 3-2 down. 2 of those 3 goals had already been wiped out, and thinking you're fearing the worst again.
At 3-2, I thought it was game over. I was literally fearing the complete worst. You know, when you're thinking about going 2-1 up after 9 minutes, after being 1-0 down, and then you're 3-2 down after 25 minutes, you're like, oh, now you're thinking, really, here we go again.
Because at 2-1 up, we're in dreamland at that point.
Yeah.
For about a minute.
But I just knew though, because we have this issue without Harry Winks, no one can keep the ball. There's no one who sits without Winks. Maybe some would say without Dyer to a lesser extent. There was no one who could literally just sit in there and just keep the ball, and that was such an issue, particularly second. We'll come on to the second half and how much torture that was. But
oh my God,
just that was the bit that was the ultimate concern, because defensively we were just pulled all over the place. But
which is again the problem we've had all season. The fullback areas, all 3 goals in that opening 20 minutes, all came from the fullback areas. Trippier, I felt like first goal he didn't close Sterling down at all. Really, he just let him get the shot off and he scored. He fell asleep as well, I felt, for Sterling's second goal. And then Rose maybe could have closed down Bernardo a bit quicker for his goal.
I felt like all Trippier's good work in that first leg was all undone in those first 10 minutes. But you know, he was brilliant in that first leg.
He was, and one brilliant tackle aside last night, he struggled.
Yeah,
he really struggled against a player he should know well. You know, they've played alongside each other for England for the last 12 to 18 months.
You know, Trippier always struggles against these speedsters, you know, against top quality opposition.
He does. He gets caught up the pitch a bit too much, I think, which has been his issue. I mean, a lot of people have said he's more useful in a back 5 or a back 3, if you like, and you're playing with wing backs, and perhaps that was how Gareth Southgate was able to get the best out of him, and Poch maybe to a lesser extent last season as well.
Yeah, it was interesting because I expected initially Poch to go for a back 3 yesterday before the game.
I'd have felt that would have been far too dangerous.
I think so.
Yeah, just it would have invited them a bit too much. He did the right thing.
Yeah,
bringing Sanchez on at the time that he did, and I think I felt he had to play as close to the same system as the home leg as possible.
Try and not give City too much encouragement.
Yeah,
then it worked, and you're right. We struggled to hold the ball. However, the counter-attacks, especially in those first 10 minutes, were lightning.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so that's what we could hope for. The quick overturns in possession. We had to take advantage of those, because you're right. We won't be able to play our nice football that we could if we had a centre mid who had a passing range or be able to carry the ball. Only Sissoko really was able to carry the ball a bit. But obviously he went off injured after half an hour. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Has there been any reports about Sissoko? Is he alright or anything?
I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything.
Because he came out after to celebrate with the fans. He looked completely fine.
Oh yeah, he said after the game. Do you hear what he said after the game? He said after the game that when Sterling scored, he went straight down the tunnel, and that he didn't know that the goal had been overruled. So he went straight down the tunnel. He was really depressed. And one of the coaches came in and he goes, "Unbelievable, we got ruled out." He goes, "What do you mean he got ruled out?" And he said, "I didn't care about my injury. I went sprinting out the changing room to join all the players and celebrate." He had no idea. But yeah, hopefully he's all right, because he's become our most vital player.
Player of the season. Said it many times.
Yeah, many times. We have said him. Again, he was having a decent game yesterday. And when he went off injured after just before half time, we were fearing the worst.
What do we make of Wanyama, though?
I thought he had a good game last night. I thought he had a really good game. And against Huddersfield, I thought he was brilliant as well. But apart from that, he hasn't had a good game for like a year or two.
I mean, I thought when he came on in the first leg for those last 15 minutes or whatever,
he made one tackle and everyone was raving about it.
Exactly, and I thought the old Wanyama was back, and I can't say I saw too much of the Huddersfield game, so for me to make comment on that would be a bit too difficult. But I felt last night I think he did a role, or he did his job last night. I think is the best way to put it. I think the first thought we were all thinking was just don't get injured again. Just don't get injured again. We need you now because Winksy could be out for a while.
It felt like the Wanyama of old last night.
Could be. I don't know. You never. This is an issue with Winksy now, because the last 3 seasons he's had a lot of injuries. You know, he had the big injury. I think it was against Burnley towards the end of the season before last season. He was out for a while as well. I think from January onwards, and he's missed sizable chunks of this season as well. So I just think it's becoming concerning that he's so young and he's already getting a few injuries to halt his progress, because I think that he's still got a lot to learn. He could be brilliant. He really could be.
In the first leg, he was absolutely outstanding, wasn't he?
Well, exactly. Had one or two blinding moments. So he really could be the real deal. But I do have these concerns that injuries may hinder his progress slightly.
It's a funny one with Winks as well, because when you talk about Jack Wilshere, everyone was raving about him, saying, England's next best hope in central midfield, and all on that one game against Barcelona. Harry Winks has had about 3 or 4 performances like that in the Champions League. When you look at the second half of Barcelona, was it in the Nou Camp as well? Did he play great?
Yeah,
against Real Madrid.
Dortmund. Real Madrid, he played brilliant.
Against Dortmund as well, you know. I think he's already better than Jack Wilshere.
And obviously against Man City in the first leg, he was absolutely one of the best players.
Yeah, exactly.
But going back to Wanyama, I think it's you're right in what you say. It was always going to be tough for him though, wasn't it? Because obviously I was up against David Silva, Kevin De Bruyne, who was back in full form. I think that was one of the best individual performances I've ever seen.
What about Bernardo Silva?
Bernardo Silva was ripping Rose to pieces, but he was more on the right hand side. But Wanyama was in that centre. He was always going to struggle, but I think, given the fact it was his first back-to-back start of the season, he's coming back from injury. He really hasn't been at his best ever, probably since he got injured. He hasn't been at his best. I think yesterday was probably his best performance since he got injured. I would say the amount of tackles he was able to get in, he was plugging those holes, and the fact that in the second half it was pretty much him and Dele Alli in that central midfield, holding the fort there, and we only conceded 1 goal. I think it could have been worse. You know what I mean?
I think a couple of great saves from Llorente.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Very good.
You're coming up with De Bruyne, who's
defending.
the best centre mid in the world, isn't he? One of them on the form he was on yesterday.
But with Wanyama, the performance he put in against Huddersfield, everyone was saying, it's just Huddersfield. But he's put in a similar, or if not better, performance against Man City. So maybe the Wanyama of old is back.
I'm hoping so. I mean, it was tough for him yesterday. I'm not going to lie. He had some moments. It was very tough for him.
Look,
but
playing against Man City, every player is going to have a moment.
But I think there was shades of Wanyama coming back to his best, and hopefully we've been begging for it. He did look a bit just like more energetic, a bit trimmer than he has recently. I don't know if you picked up on that.
I wouldn't know. I mean, he's particularly in that first season he came in. Remember, he was absolutely integral.
Yeah.
And I think he was essentially. Ali's played in a deeper role before, maybe not for a little while at Spurs, but he was essentially doing 2 roles last night because Ali's immediate tendency is just
with a broken hand. Yeah.
With a broken hand. His immediate tendency is always to drift forward, and I still thought Ali's discipline last night at times was superb. But it's that need, or that what we need as a club from your holding midfielder, or your only natural holding midfielder on a night like that. I just felt he handled the occasion pretty well. And as you say, look, I think De Bruyne was unlucky to be on the losing team last night. He was that good. He was so good.
That's up there with any individual performance I've ever seen, I think.
I thought Man City on a whole were brilliant, you know.
I mean, it's like I was saying to you just before. I don't mind saying this. City are a joy. They are an absolute joy. All right, I know they've spent a lot of money, but okay, they're lucky enough to have had the investment that's afforded managers to be able to do that. But putting that to a side, having a manager who's been able to assemble a squad in the way that Guardiola has, and it's largely become his squad now. All right, they've struggled a little bit in the title race. I say that they're second and it's still in their hands, but
that's struggling. Yeah,
they are an absolute joy. And all right, at Wembley earlier this season, it was difficult on that difficult pitch. At home, we were superb. I thought they were pretty good as well, but we really just about did enough to win the game. Any other night last night, and taking away the fact they're playing against Spurs, you're almost willing for City to win that. Not against us, obviously.
Yeah.
You're willing for City to win that game because they're that good. Because they were that good. I just thought they were. It's like I said before. It was torture. It was absolute torture.
I think once Sissoko went off, we really struggled to have any sort of foothold in that game. We did struggle. Like second half, did we have a chance apart from Llorente's goal? I can't remember one.
No,
I don't think we did. And so obviously Sissoko going off, which everyone was like crying about, literally when everyone could see what was about to happen. With Llorente coming on, we lost the threat. I felt going forward on the break because we kind of lost that pace going forward because Son was shunted out to the wing. Walker kind of had him covered there. Llorente was struggling to hold the ball up, and then defensively, I agree with you. Dele Alli was well disciplined, but he's not a defensive midfielder at the end of the day. And when you're playing against David Silva and De Bruyne, he's always going to struggle against those kind of players. So it was literally relentless in that second half, wasn't it? Absolutely relentless.
It was brutal. I mean, it was inevitable that the first goal was coming. And someone put in one of my WhatsApp groups. I can't remember who it was. It's never going to be just one. I'm amazed we kept it down to one.
So that's what I was
But
saying.
it would never be just one. I always felt though, and this comes back to what I said at the start with Llorente going to do something of note. I felt there was always just because it was only one goal.
Mm-hmm.
There's one chance, and the longer it went on, as the clock ticked down towards 20 minutes, 15 minutes. I can't remember in which interval the
15 minutes to go
the winner came. I just thought, just hang in there. The chance will come because you've got to create at least one chance in that 20 minutes. If it's on target, all right, brilliant. But I just knew there'd be that one opening. Thankfully, it came, and thankfully we took it. Very nearly got overruled, but very nearly wasn't the euphoria that we all experienced. But
I mean, we thought it was Toby that scored till after the game.
it's true. But I didn't know
really?
until after the game. But we'll go on to Llorente's in a minute. But going 4-2 down though after an hour, that was really important because it kind of gets overlooked that City were essentially 3-0 down and they came back last night, which was an amazing comeback if you think about it. That gets overlooked obviously because they went out, but. We went 4-2. The noise in that stadium, I must say, was pretty electric from the City fans when they went 4-2, and it really struggled to see any way back because the attacking was relentless from Man City, and we were struggling to really get out at that point. And it was really once we got to 4-2, it was like, how many is it going to be? Is it going to be 5, 6? That's what we were worrying about.
And what saved us? Something that we've been complaining about for the last 5 years, an Eriksen corner.
No, apparently I think it was Trippier in the end.
It was Trippier.
I think it was Trippier
You sure?
in the end. Yeah,
So you told me it was Eriksen.
Yeah, I thought it was. I think it was Trippier.
I think Trippier took the first corner, didn't he? And then Eriksen took
I think
the second.
Rose
took the first.
Rose took the first corner.
I think Trippier took the second.
I don't think I paid too much attention to who was taking the second corner.
Yeah.
I was thinking someone made the run to the near post or something.
I think the only chance we were going to have was going to be from a set piece, wasn't it? Because we were open play, we weren't really creating anything in the second half.
I just think really when you've got someone like Llorente, the best way to play against them, even against Man City, would be just to get as high and as wide as you can and lump balls into the penalty area and hope that there'll be someone going in to support him. I think we had one chance from a Llorente header before the goal.
Yeah, you're right. Yes, that is true. From Dele Alli played a lovely ball into Llorente.
So there wasn't enough of that when you've got someone of Llorente's, I don't want to say lack of ability because I like Llorente, as I said, just because he's a different type of forward.
But when Man City are on that kind of form and playing that well, it's hard to create those chances.
Of course.
It could be one of the best comebacks of all time.
I just didn't think we were keeping the ball.
Kept it.
They're dubbing that as the greatest Champions League game of all time.
It's definitely up there. Can you think of many? But we'll get into that. But Llorente's winner, obviously there was it went in off his hip / hand to hip and whatever. There was a long wait for VAR before the referee finally gave the goal. Once he looked at the VAR, he turned around, he just shrugged his shoulders and just gave the goal as if what are you complaining about? But on the super slow-mo, it did kind of brush his arm onto his thigh.
Different angles looked like it
there was one pretty conclusive super slow motion
but his arm is by his side.
It
like
is,
this.
and it kind of brushed his arm onto his thigh, onto his hip, and went in the net. Do you think there's any case? Because Guardiola seems to think that he has a case for handball, but do you think there's any case for handball there?
It's difficult because it's what, and this has become a bit of a grey area. Is what's handball? Is it deliberate use of your arm or of your hand to gain control of the ball? If in this case it is that, it's not deliberate use of his arm because his arm's in a natural position. It's as he's gone up, he's sort of trying not to get his arms too wide because then that would be an unnatural position.
And in fact, on the super slow-mo, he actually retracts his arm to try and avoid contact, but it kind of touches it.
But again, it's the same thing as Danny Rose in the first leg, you deliberately moving his arm to gain control of the ball. Is that an unnatural position? It's the same with the PSG one against Manchester United. It's what's unnatural, and again, it's this grey area that's become so open to interpretation now, and this is where my issue with VAR ultimately comes in. Is that an official watching the game, and we're not talking about the referee who didn't spot it in its first instance, an official in another room elsewhere is watching the game. and said you might want to have a look at this, but I'm not ultimately sure myself. So in the long run, with the added use of VAR, are referees now just going to stop backing their own judgment and start going to
That's probably the case.
another official to correct them, essentially? And then is that going to have a more damaging effect on officials long term? Ultimately, VAR worked in our favour last night, and I've always said that I'm not pro VAR.
You've been anti-VAR.
I never have been. It helped us a hell of a lot last night, and I can't argue.
I won't hear a bad word about VAR.
I can't argue too much about it. But in
They were
that
taking a
case,
long time to make those decisions last night.
and
it was a good 3 minutes that referee was looking at the Llorente one. He was literally just watching it for a long time.
It's had, although ultimately the decisions proved to be correct, and that's what we as supporters want. It is the correct decision. It's still got its criticism, or it's had its criticism today anyway. Perhaps more than it should have done, despite the fact the two key decisions were the right ones.
But I think I guess the difference between like the Danny Rose one and the one in PSG and the Llorente one is Llorente's hand. What I think the rule that the UEFA brought in is that if your arm is in a position where it makes your body bigger, then that can be classed as handball, because you're kind of extending your area of your body to make it bigger, and if it touches your hand, it's kind of like it's in an unnatural position. But Llorente, that wasn't the case for Llorente at all. So I'm not sure where Guardiola has this impression that it could be given.
I think he's just a bit salty, to be honest.
Yeah, probably. I don't blame him after that.
It was a tough one to take.
After what he was saying before the game as well, it was like, we're already in the semi-finals, we're definitely going to make it.
He was confident.
He was confident.
He was
very confident.
And he had a reason to be, let's be honest, they're the best team in Europe.
And they were fantastic. Can't take them away. And then
just remember something. Across the 90 minutes, they won the game.
Yeah.
They did. They were superb and they won the game. They just didn't do enough across the two legs to win the tie, but they won the game.
Yeah.
And they did produce one of the best comebacks you'll probably ever see in a Champions League tie, despite, at the end of the day, they did concede that goal from Llorente, but the way they came, as I said, they were essentially 3-0 down. The way they came back as they did, like straight away with those two goals and Aguero scoring that goal in the second half, was scintillating. It was unstoppable, really. And there was one point where one of the Spurs fans turned to me and goes, like, there's just it's not like we've bottled it today. City have just been absolutely sensational. They've just overawed us. We've hit them with everything we've got with 2 goals in the first half, and they still were able to come back with relative ease. It appeared.
I'm sure we'll talk about the game of the weekend at some point, but they will be knackered after 100%. Throwing everything into it last night, and because of the fact there's 5 injuries now to first team players, we can't rotate perhaps as much as we want to. It's going to be a tough game, really.
Got no centre mids.
Difficult game.
Because Wanyama won't be able to play. Surely.
Well, because of the
2 games in a week after being injured for so long.
Might see a start for Skip, and maybe we can talk about him later. Who knows?
Dele Alli, but with Dele
and Sissoko's probably going to be injured. So what are you going to play? Skip and Dele Alli in the middle?
Well, it depends on. Were Dyer or Winksy in training today?
I don't think so.
So I guess we'll have to wait for the press conference to see what Poch's team news. But so Llorente got the 4-3, and then obviously we're holding on for dear life to attack after attack going into the 90th minute, and then we actually looked alright. We had the ball in possession. We give it to Eriksen.
What does he do?
And then he turns around, tries to pass it back to Ben Davies, and it gets intercepted by Bernardo Silva. Somehow, I was fuming when Eriksen did that. When I thought it cost us, it fell to Aguero, obviously, who passed it to Sterling, who scored thought to be the winner in the 93rd minute. I was literally in tears when that moment happened.
There's a lot of hostility.
I was so furious and frustrated, and just if that would have counted, it would have been the most Spursy of all Spursy endings to concede in the 93rd minute like that.
This is the new type of Spursy.
To drop going the Champions League semi-finals.
Shades of Gerrard in Euro 2004 knocking the ball all the way back to David James from kickoff.
Oh yeah.
England give away a penalty, and Dan scores the penalty. We lose the game 2-1.
Yeah, that was exactly. It was because Eriksen. Because as you were about to say,
there's a lot of hostility towards Eriksen already, and can you imagine if that goal was counted?
Yeah.
God.
That would have been, there would have been pitchforks for him, I feel like, if that would have happened. But as he said, he's the luckiest guy,
Luckiest man
in the world, because when that VAR, obviously I was so depressed, I didn't even have a thinking that VAR was even going to check this. It looked like just a standing goal. It didn't look like there was anything wrong. If anything, I didn't realise Bernardo Silva actually got a touch initially, so I thought Eriksen had played it to Aguero, so I thought obviously he can't be offside if Eriksen played it to him. But given the fact that Bernardo had the interception, played it to Aguero, and then VAR checked it, and obviously City are already celebrating as if they made the semi-finals.
Ederson comes.
Edison slid right in front of the fans. He did that massive slide. The whole bench are running up and down like Mourinho style.
Did you see? Was it Kevin De Bruyne? He was going, "This is my house. This is my house.
This is our house." Yeah, he was saying that this is our house because of obviously all the stadium references he was making.
There was a tweet saying, "He must have rented it out to Llorente or something."
I didn't see all these little things I didn't see.
Yeah.
I just think in the aftermath of just trying to get the telly back on, I suppose. But no, in the aftermath of the goal, I just don't think I was paying any attention to it. Like, I didn't know about the Edison slide, didn't know about the De Bruyne
you must have seen
actions.
Pep
I've seen
Pep running
I've seen
down.
it retrospectively. Actually, if I'm honest, I didn't see it at the time.
I don't think anyone saw anything at the time.
No,
let's be honest.
We were just
just
going
sort of a
crazy.
bit crestfallen, really.
Yeah, and then obviously, so the VAR check comes back and it's offside, and that was I've never celebrated a VAR check so much in my life. That moment when VAR comes back, you see the referee do the whole offside. Oh my God, that was speechless, absolutely speechless. How happened?
That's actually a brilliant song.
What?
There's that comment. We beat Man City. We should sing that on Saturday.
We beat Man City with VAR.
Very good.
Who was that? Richard Down. Not bad. We'll get that going.
Very good. Very good.
I like that. But yeah, that moment. Well, I've watched it back so many times. It's one of the most. Can you remember a more dramatic ending to a football match?
I think that VAR call was one of the greatest moments of my life. I'm not even joking. It was absolutely sensational.
I'm guessing on a par with Crouch, with Woodgate against Chelsea, with the 5-1 against Arsenal,
I think better.
the 1-0 against Leicester in 1999. I mean, I'm just cycling off the trophies that we've won in our lifetime.
Yeah, not many. But.
And obviously 91, we were old enough to remember that.
I mean, 91, I remember it really well. I was 15 months old at the time.
But yeah, can you remember a more dramatic ending to a football match than that one? It really summed up the whole game in terms of drama in that moment. It really did.
I think contextually, probably not.
What about the 4-3 against West Ham?
Quarter-final. Again, contextually here.
Yeah,
that was a Premier League game, which ultimately, in the context of West Ham's season, just proved to be a bit of a kick up the backside.
Right, because they actually kicked them up.
They went and stayed up. But only thing, I can't think of any real late drama.
4-4 against Arsenal.
The 4-4 against Arsenal, I think, was again, it was more good for us. Kept the momentum going under Redknapp.
But really, this is the first time it's happened in a Champions League tie like this, so it kind of is a first for everyone, really, that kind of experience. The VAR ruling, if someone's scoring the win and then VAR ruling it out in the 90th minute for the other team to go through. Has that really happened?
I remember a Champions League game, I think about 10 years ago, it was Liverpool-Chelsea. And
had VAR,
they didn't have VAR then. It was 1-1 from the first leg because Liverpool scored a 93rd minute own goal.
I remember that. Reece scored an own goal.
Or something like that. And then the game at Stamford Bridge, maybe 6-4? Or
4-4, wasn't it?
4-1
I remember that one.
Or something like that. Had so many goals, went to extra time. Chelsea went on to go through. I think
better than mine.
in terms of drama,
that probably tops it.
I think well, for us last night would top it in any which way. I just think if you're thinking as a neutral and trying to think of games that weren't the Liverpool game or the United game from '99, I think that's probably the only one from living memory that I can.
Because obviously apparently it's the first time ever in a Champions League tie the lead switched 3 times within the first 20 minutes.
Oh wow!
Of a game. Which is absolutely crazy. I mean, the way it just panned out, we were leading, then they were leading, then we went 3 goals ahead on the tie, then they went 3-2 up, then they were 4-2 up, then we got the goal back, then they scored in the I think nothing beats that for a Champions League tie. I think that surely as a neutral, there has to be one of the best European ties of all time, I think. And to have it outside in the quarter-final...
They're saying it is the best.
I can't think of any where the drama really compares to that.
I think if we ever can sit and watch it sort of as a neutral, which would be very difficult to do, it's part of the reason why I've not watched it back yet, because I think I'll still be enjoying the emotions too much.
Literally.
But I'll just sit back and really appreciate
never enjoy that too much.
What a wonderful game of football it was. But I'll still, the feeling of being tortured in that second half is just always going to come back.
That's the thing, because we're so emotionally involved into the game, we don't get to appreciate it as much as
I think
neutral.
I think it's hearing it from a lot of Arsenal supporters, both in and around the press, saying it was the best game they've ever watched or best European game they've ever watched.
Arsenal fans I've been speaking to are absolutely shitting themselves at the moment. They've been telling me that if we win the Champions League this year, they're done with football. They're not going to watch football anymore.
Well, they say that they will, but yeah. No, it's speaking to City fans last night or even after the game. I was amazed by the sort of mutual appreciation for both teams actually at the end, particularly from because the one thing I didn't realise again until after was seeing clips back on Twitter. I haven't watched the game back. I saw the celebrations at the end, and the ground was still full.
When?
Last night at the end, it always seemed like it was.
Well,
still
it emptied
full.
out quite quickly after
the Spurs fans stayed for a good
but
half an hour.
Spurs fans were in there.
It seemed like there was a lot of appreciation from those City fans who did stay behind.
I didn't notice.
I'm sure you wouldn't. And again, I didn't notice it at the time.
Players the other time.
It looked or sounded from what I've seen since as if there was still a fair City presence within the ground, just sort of applauding their efforts.
Doesn't that just mean there's loads of empty seats in the ground?
Maybe. Who knows? They could just all be heading towards the exits and can't get out quick enough because there's too many people.
But the atmosphere actually last night, from a City perspective, was really good. I think it's the best I've seen up there for sure.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, they were on point.
Again, from the telly, sounded pretty good on the telly.
Yeah, they were loud, especially at 4-2. But when the full-time whistle went, and obviously everyone broke out into mass celebrations, and you saw the video of Pochettino, how passionate he was at full-time there. Usually he's quite calm and collected, but...
That's a manager who clearly wants to leave. Yeah. That there is a manager who really wants to leave.
It clearly meant everything to him. You saw him, I even saw him, the minutes leading up to the full-time whistle. I've never seen Pochettino that animated on a touchline like he was in those few minutes. And given that's the Champions League semi-final now for him, how much do you think that means to him? With all people say you need to win a trophy and all this stuff, and and that's always kind of been on his back for the past few years. And now we have kind of a tangible, we're in a semi-final of a Champions League, which we've never been in before as a Spurs fan.
Can you just say that again?
Yeah, we're in the semi-final of the Champions League. How much do you think it means? It clearly means a lot to him personally.
I'm going to predict it now. I predicted it earlier today, so friends of mine who are watching this or who are listening to this, and I'm very sorry that you're going to hear me say it again, we will beat Ajax, we will progress to the final, and I think it will be against Barcelona, which I know isn't too much of a sweeping statement for Barcelona to beat Liverpool, but I do think across two legs Barca would have too much for Liverpool, even this Liverpool team who look pretty resolute. But the mere thought of saying Spurs are going to be in the Champions League final is already giving me shivers. It is.
I'm literally having shivers up my spine just listening to you.
And start getting your travel plans in and everything, going to Madrid.
No, not yet. I wouldn't be so sure.
Maybe not tempt fate, but look, Ajax are, if you've seen much of them this season, outside of the Champions League games, they really do look the real deal. And it would be tough for their supporters if there is a bit of an exodus similar to what we saw from Monaco a couple of years back when they looked like they were building a young, exciting team that again did really well in Europe. I really think that across two legs. All right, even if Kane is still out,
and Son's out for the first game.
Son's out for the first game. Okay, that's a blow.
That is a blow.
I think we've got enough within the team anyway. I think we've got enough goals in the team anyway. Because people are forgetting now that Lucas has scored 12 goals. I think Llorente's not far off double figures.
You think he's on double figures
for
now?
A player who is largely bit part. That's not about who gets 5 minutes here, 6 minutes there, 12 minutes here and there. He doesn't.
Midas King says Son's yellow card was incorrect. So could they be? It can't be overturned.
Can't be overturned, unfortunately.
It's annoying.
So we will be without Son, but it's
Llorente and Lucas.
Llorente, Lucas, Lamella's got a habit in years gone by of scoring some important goals. We know Dele and Eriksen.
Assists as well.
If Eriksen can rediscover some of his form, can certainly chip in with a few goals. So
But
I just think we've got enough.
I always feel like though, even like obviously Ajax is going to be a real tough test, but if with Son and Kane out, it's going to be a tall order. I think any sort of lead going into the away leg and then get Son back in there will be positive because
A clean sheet and a lead.
win. Yeah, because it's going to be.
2-0.
I think it'll be really tough.
Quite clearly, that home leg for us is vital because if you look at where Ajax have done the damage
It's away from
at the
home.
Bernabeu and in Turin,
Yeah.
I think they lost the first leg in the Bernabeu from
Yeah,
memory. They
yeah,
lost,
yeah,
and then they
at home,
overturned
At
it.
home, yeah.
I mean, at home, yeah, and
They drew.
again they had to come from behind to draw with Juventus in the Amsterdam Arena. They travel well.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They travel well, and that's what we've got to be mindful of, perhaps more so than the away game. So you're right, coming away with a win
Yeah, would be massive.
is massive.
Any sort of win, I think, because with Son out, what I'd worry about is any kind of more injuries we would get that would rule anyone out that first leg. Because if Son and Kane are already
It's
out,
been happening to us all season.
and then
hasn't it?
who knows what's going to happen with Winks? Is Winks going to be fit for that first leg? Sissoko's injured now. We don't know how long he's going to be
Well,
out
at least
for.
we've got how long till the
2 weeks,
2 weeks? Bloody hell.
30th of April.
Oh god, 2 weeks till Spurs playing the Champions League semi-final.
Sneaks
Even
up on you
less,
fast,
actually.
doesn't it?
12 days, even less.
That is mad.
12 days.
12 days and until in the semi-final. Well, no,
I've
there's
been praying for Spurs to play Ajax for years and years and
I
years.
think
Yeah.
you and a lot of Spurs fans.
let's talk about Ajax for a bit because I think when I watched them, I doubted when they beat Madrid whether that was more to do with Madrid being shocking this season, which they have been, or because Ajax were that good. And they, because they won 4-1 at the Bernabeu, which was a really impressive result. But Madrid have been pretty average this season. But when they play Juventus, who have been brilliant, I think, with Ronaldo and back in the team, and with a bunch of world class players playing well, obviously completely rinsing the Serie A like they do every year. And then for them to go away to Juventus after drawing the first game and not just win, but completely play them off the park the way they did.
They absolutely
Yeah,
should
They
Should've been more.
absolutely
Should've been
should have been more. And this is a Juventus side who we played last season. I know we might have won that game as well, but they are resolute in how they defend. And for Ajax to open up their defence as many times as they did is so impressive.
It looked like Juventus didn't know what hit them the other night. Ajax were literally just pinging it past them like nobody's
The
business.
bit that surprises me is Allegri is so astute as a coach, as we saw at Wembley against us.
Mhm.
Because when he saw it, just for whatever reason, it wasn't going his way, he made one change of bringing on a wing back to stretch us in a way that we couldn't have an answer
Yeah.
for. And that's what ended up winning the game for them.
Mhm.
So I was surprised that, considering the onslaught that they were getting, he just couldn't quite work out what
How
the
to
best way
change it.
the best way was to.
These genius
approach it.
managerial decisions always happen against us.
I know they do. I know.
You know what I mean?
Well, the thing is,
It's just Spurs luck.
I've seen plenty of Juve. Remember, this is a team that's been in the Champions League final a couple of times in the
Yeah.
last 5
Yeah.
years as well.
Yeah, and add Ronaldo to that.
And then add Ronaldo into it, a player they brought in specifically to progress further in the Champions League or to win the Champions League.
Yeah.
And also how they beat Atletico the last round with Ronaldo hat-trick after being 2-0 down. You're thinking this team's going to has the resilience to go all
Go
the
all
way.
the way again. So I found the lack of an answer perhaps more surprising than Ajax's overall performance, because I knew they had it in them. And because these are young superstars, and they are superstars. Obviously, De Jong's off to Barcelona. De Ligt's been linked with some big clubs in Europe for big money. And obviously, we brought in Davinson Sanchez. I think it was from Ajax.
Yeah, he was only there for a year.
Again, but for big money. And
Yeah.
they've got a conveyor belt, it seems, of developing top European talent. So the manner of their performance
Should.
after watching the Real Madrid game shouldn't have surprised anyone.
Mm-hmm. But
I think the surprise is just the way that Juventus were just so nullified. Like, they didn't have anything that game. Ajax were just pinging it past them.
But I think there's one thing going away to a Madrid side who have struggled, to be fair, this season big time. Let's be honest, in the La Liga and in a lot of games they've played quite badly and they've suffered quite a few big defeats. But to go there in the Juventus side to play against like Juventus, who are
Again, with
as
a
I
goal
said,
down as well.
a goal down, who are known for their defensive solidity, have world class players all over the park, and to just completely nullify them and then play. I think on the ball, you have to say, based on Ajax's game against Juventus, they're actually one of the best teams on the ball in Europe. how they played. I've never seen build-up play like that, except for maybe Barcelona. Even we aren't, I'm not sure, capable of such amazing build-up play like that was like against Juventus in that game. So I think we have a lot to be worried about going into this tie.
Yeah, just nullified Dusan Tadic and Mark Hakim Ziyech out of the game, and
Ziyech is a real talent, isn't he?
I think those two quite clearly, along with De Jong as well.
Who would you take?
They score goals. I like Ziyech.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, I have one or two reservations, perhaps, because he's one of the more. I say he's experienced. He's still relatively young, but he's been in and around the Ajax team for a while, and he's not been picked up by any European side yet, or any major European. That's such a bad thing to say about Ajax. Obviously, they've got such a great European history.
Yeah.
They've not been picked. He's not been picked off by another side yet. But look, if the rumours are to be believed, and Eriksen's off this summer, and we've got to look for someone who could fill the void, I think that's not a bad place to start looking. Along with others.
Him, Maddison or Grealish?
Well, what about Draxler?
Or
Right, is
Draxler?
Draxler available?
Don't know if he's necessarily available. I just think of every big player, or of any player at a big club, perhaps, and I mean like a big European club, I think that could be one potentially to keep an eye on. That's not any insider knowledge or anything like that.
Right.
This is me as someone who's watched
Speculating.
a
I
lot.
like a signing from PSG as well.
Well, and I watched Draxler a lot when I used to cover the Bundesliga, and I've seen him a little bit with PSG as well. So I like the look of him as a player. I just think he'd be, and I was always a bit disappointed that he was consistently linked with Arsenal. So I'd like to see him now come through to English football. And
How old is he now?
he's mid-20s, I think.
Yeah, still 25.
He's still
relatively-
relatively young, and he's coming into his prime a bit. I'd just like to see us sign someone of
How much do you
of
reckon
that.
a player like that would cost these days? Because I think his value has probably dropped in the last couple of years.
Well, remember, he started life as a forward, or as a wide forward, or an
Yeah.
inside-out forward, whatever you like,
Nice, more of a
and
centre
now he's
mid.
been playing centre midfield to accommodate the abundance of attacking talent at PSG. So, and he's adapted to that pretty well. I mean, look,
Because he's not starting week in, week out.
It's a question of whether or not we as a club are prepared to spend 40 plus, 50 plus million on a single player. It's just not our model. That's not a
Well,
that's
you
not
know,
a
you bid on
criticism.
Davinson.
That's not a criticism. It's just not the way we tend to do things. And all right, some will say that has to change if you want to progress
Well, I
as a
think if
club.
the right-
Does it have to change? I mean,
If the right player's there, they will spend on him. Look at
I mean-
Davinson Sanchez. They spent over 40 million on him.
was it as much as that?
Yeah.
Wow. See, I can't even remember. I knew it was big money.
Yeah,
I knew
about
it was-
40 million, yeah.
I knew it was a transfer record. So okay. So maybe.
So, Lamela cost 30 million. You know, there's players that we've spent money on. I think if the right player's there that fits the right profile, the right age and everything.
I mean, look, to go through the three players that you said, in terms of Ziyech, Maddison or Grealish, I'd take all three of them. I really would. I mean, I put together my realistic shopping list for the summer, and Grealish was on it. I don't think Maddison will leave Leicester just yet. I just think with Rodgers coming in, and
give it another season.
they'll give it another season. And particularly if Villa don't go up, and all right, they don't need to sell as they did last year. But I just think the lure.
But does Grealish want another year in the Championship?
No,
'Cause
he wants
He's not
to,
getting any younger.
he wants to play for England. So I just think.
He's doing bits as well.
Yeah, he's really he's having a wonderful season with Villa. So I just think now's the time for us. He's as close to, in terms of how he plays, as close to Dembele as a player that's played in English football that I can think of at the moment that would fill the void.
Interesting. But is it? Are we? Given how, as England fans, we were burnt in the semi-finals against Croatia, it was kind of it's a fairly similar situation where we're playing a team where you feel like we have a good chance of making the final. However, we can't get too ahead of ourselves because they're in the semi-finals for a reason, aren't they? So, do you think, considering all the English players we have in our squad, do you think they might have learnt from that World Cup?
Well, they
in the-
learned from that
in the
World
summer?
Cup, learned from all the semi-finals they've lost with Tottenham. So they're going to have to learn at some stage.
Because we
this
can't
has
take
happened over and
this
over again.
Ajax team lightly.
They haven't
course
got Modric, who from 1 hour onwards in that semi-final
Yeah,
absolutely ripped us to absolute pieces.
Yeah.
So.
No, they do have Frank de Jong.
They do have Frankie de Jong,
who
who
ripped Modric to pieces in the
could do the
Bernabeu.
same. Yeah, of course. Yeah, look, I think you're right. We do have reason to be concerned, perhaps. But
Look, you're in a Champions League semi-final. You're always going to come up against a great side.
well,
you know what I mean?
yeah, and the story of Ajax is brilliant. Obviously, progressing through qualifying as well. But Why shouldn't we feel confident? Because everyone knew that Croatia were a top side, and I think Ajax have sort of gone a little bit under the radar, perhaps. Apart from until that moment in the Bernabeu, no one were really talking about them. Whereas, but then again, no one really talking about Spurs, because I think a lot thought we'd lose to Dortmund, and then a lot thought we'd get knocked out in the group stages, and obviously recovered well, and then went and thumped Dortmund and did very well to progress beyond Manchester City. So this is two underdogs, if you like.
I prefer us to go into a semi-final as underdogs and favourites. I think it suits us much better being an underdog.
I think that suits us pretty well as well.
And we're not going to be underdog against Ajax.
And one thing about Ajax is, however good they've been, they haven't kept a clean sheet in the knockout stages yet. So maybe defensively, there is something can be got at. I think obviously on the ball we can see they're on par with most teams in Europe, but defensively, maybe they could be got at. That's what we got to hope for.
Yeah, look, we just need to win to 0, I think, in the first leg, and I think we should be okay.
In the absence of Son, would you play Danny Rose further forward?
Well, he played that. Who was it
Palace,
against Palace, and I didn't like him there.
Okay.
I didn't like him there. I think he's much better when he's got that defensive responsibility.
Or is he better with his pace, like Bale used to be before he completely converted into a forward from deep?
But
once he's gathered a bit of momentum.
Does he still have that pace though, as he used to?
No, he's lost half a yard of it because of his injuries, but he's still quicker than most, and he can still beat a man, and he can still cause havoc going forward. I don't think it's something we should completely go. Nah, that doesn't. I think it didn't work. It didn't work once. So
we won the game though.
We won the game. It didn't work, but there's no reason why. I know it's the semi-final of the Champions League, and it'd be brave to do that.
It's like when he played Heung-min Son left wing back against Chelsea in the semi-final.
Well, that we ended up losing the game, and that really didn't work.
I remember Chelsea when they got to the Champions League final. They played Ryan Bertrand.
Yeah, that's
left wing. Yeah.
But for them, it worked.
It did work. Yeah.
So
it'll be interesting. Cool. I think Llorente could have a big part to say in this game, because he who's top goal scorer in the Dutch league? It's Luke de Jong, isn't it? He's a big player, quite similar to Llorente. I think these Dutch teams can struggle against a big tall striker like Llorente.
Maybe Vincent Janssen can come in.
Unfortunately, he's not registered. But
that's true. Yeah.
That's a shame. That's a shame. Big.
He did bits in the Dutch league.
Yeah, he did. But I think a team like Ajax, who love to keep the ball on the ground, who love to play beautiful football, if we can get Llorente in there, making things difficult for their centre backs, that could be an avenue where we can get a lot of joy. I think if we decide to go that route.
What, playing with wing backs or playing wide or knocking it long to a centre forward? Yeah, maybe.
It was what you were saying before. Getting it wide and putting it into Llorente. Constant balls in the box.
Providing that, and this was something we were particularly good at in what I describe as the Leicester season, was when we get wide with the wing backs or the full backs, you get Ali, Eriksen and one of Son, Lamela, whoever you like, as close to the target man as possible. So at least if it's not Llorente, it's someone else. Because otherwise it doesn't work. Not with Llorente. He's not. Obvious statement here. He's not Kane. So he's not going to do some of the work that Kane could do by himself. And particularly in the first half against Chelsea in the semi-final, where I felt this was most frustrating. We were playing in a way that it was as if Kane was still there, and it quite clearly didn't work.
Yeah.
So I just think with Llorente, it is a case of you can get balls high and wide and into the penalty area for him, but it's the knockdowns afterwards that he inevitably will win. It's who wins it with him.
And around him, yeah.
I feel like he's going to start that first leg, Llorente.
I think he's got to start the first leg.
I completely agree. I think you just play as close to that City system from the first game as you can, if I'm frank. And I just think that's with a striker.
But talk about City, we've obviously got them now on the weekend.
Yeah.
Is this kind of just a game where you have to probably we're going to be beaten before it even starts, kind of thing?
A lot of Spurs fans, including me, have said I don't care if we lose this game, but when you actually look at it, it's a really important game, because if we can get a result from this game, a win or a draw, that puts us in such good stead for the top four. I think you're going to say that we're probably going to win our home games, or not probably, but you're expected to win the home games. Bournemouth away, who are just in free fall at the moment,
but still good at home.
Still, well, you say that, but
still
didn't they
can get wins at home.
They did just win 5-0 though away
At
To
Brighton.
at
yeah.
Brighton, but Brighton are just.
And Brighton were down to 10 men for large parts of the game.
But I think Bournemouth have had a really big slump recently.
They have, yeah.
So you're expected to win those games. But if we win this Man City game, then we've really got ourselves in pole position because everyone's having us down as a loss for that.
Look, I know a lot of people want Liverpool to not
Yes,
go
please.
on to win
Yes,
the title.
please.
Let's put the needs of Spurs first. We need to qualify for the Champions League. Now, if we fail to get anything, really and truly, we're still in a good position anyway because we've got the game in hand. But we've got to actually make the game in hand count on
Well,
Tuesday.
the game in hand is Brighton.
It is Brighton who are in free fall, but I don't know. If we want to talk about things that are Spursy, it's coming up against sides that you should be beating. I mean, again, we did it in the Leicester season, I think,
Yeah.
and we in one of the Martin Jol seasons when we were on the brink of Champions League football, and we all know what happened at the very end. But the amount of points dropped late on was in games that again we should be seeing out. So these are the bits that are concerning. City will be deflated, but at the same time they'll be up for it. It's have we got enough to perhaps hold firm, come away with a point on Saturday lunchtime? Well,
Can we though? With the because our squad is thin already. And
So
they're
depleted.
knackered from.
So depleted, yeah.
Look, he won't make 7 changes again, will he? But
And then add to that, City are going to be banging for revenge, aren't they? They're going to be absolutely
it's
on
not.
it, aren't they?
But for us, it's not revenge. We don't. If
But for them it is.
will they see it as revenge?
Yeah, of course they will.
they've got more. They've got more important fish to fry.
Yeah, but they'll know what happened. It'll be in their mind what happened on Wednesday for sure. It will, and I think they're going to be really on it, City, to try and obviously going because now the
They're
title's all they got now.
The title is so much bigger for them now. They're out of the Champions League.
can't see us. I can't see any situation where we don't get beat on Saturday. I really don't. How?
I'm
How could
expecting
we
a
do
big
it?
scoreline, to be honest.
I could see us by at least 3 goals getting beat. I know it's quite defeatist, but considering how depleted we are, how much effort we put on a Wednesday, how big City squad, fully fit squad is, how they're going to be on it because they're going for the title and they're going to want revenge for Wednesday night. We have no fit central midfielders going forward. We still got Son and Lucas and Llorente fit, so it's not too bad. But
They can make 5-6 changes and still put
exactly,
out a
and be
world-class
fresh.
side.
Exactly, that's what I'm worried about. So, if we come away with something on Saturday, that'll be an absolute miracle in my book. But it wouldn't be the miracle that happened on Wednesday.
I'll take a point. I'll be very happy with a
I'll
point.
take a point right now.
I'll
Don't
be-
need to travel up to
I'll be-
Manchester.
Well, I think a lot of people will. Are you going?
I'm going.
Of course you're going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. No, I'm not this one, unfortunately. But
Can you see
get back in time for Saturday
some
night.
changes? Yeah, you see some changes happening on the weekend in terms of like Davis coming in, Sanchez maybe.
he'll make a few changes. Not as many as the 7 that he had to make Huddersfield. But
I reckon Davis and Carl Walker-Peters will play.
Carl Walker-Peters, do you reckon are playing? So who's going to start? So do you reckon Wanyama will start? Or
Wanyama
start?
and Skip.
We don't have a choice. Like Wanyama, can he play 3 games in a week?
And he played 90 minutes. On Wednesday.
Again, it comes back to how fit is Eric Dyer,
Yeah.
He's not fit, I don't think.
or was Winksy's injury? I'm calling him Winksy. I mean, it's like my best
Winksy,
mates.
yeah.
Right.
Winksy,
Yeah.
Winksy.
If it was just the 1 game or the 2 games he was going to sit out of, is he going to be fit enough? I hope he's fit enough because he has a big role to play.
No, but I think even if we lose, it's still in our hands.
Troy Parrott?
Troy Parrott.
He looks
He looks ill.
very useful, doesn't he? But again, that's just the level that they're playing at, and it's difficult to make the step up. But
Yeah, and especially if your debut's against Man City away.
Well, stranger things have happened. Ryan Mason making his Premier League debut at Arsenal.
Yeah, and played well.
Played very well.
But yeah, no, it is still in our hands considering United have to play Chelsea. It's top 4 is still in our hands, even if we lose.
Yeah,
Just
it's just
about-
annoying that if we're going to lose this weekend, it's possible for Arsenal to go above us.
Yeah, but then they got Wolves on Wednesday, and we
Yeah.
got Brighton, so hopefully we can.
Yeah, so actually next week is so important because we've got Brighton at home, Arsenal got Wolves away, and I think Chelsea are playing Man United, I think.
Are
Or
they
Man
playing?
City, one of them.
No, United are playing City.
Oh,
on the
United
weekend.
playing City, yeah, that's it.
So yeah, there are some big games for the top 4 coming. We need to get that wrapped up. We don't want to be thinking about that when we're playing the Champions League. We don't want that on our minds. We would want that to
We'd
be
like a
wrapped up.
cushion, I think, is the way
Yeah.
of putting it.
Although the perfect scenario would probably be us finishing 5th and then Chelsea 6th and then win Europa League, us Champions League and Arsenal finishing 4th.
That would actually be amazing.
That would
it
that
could
would be-
so easily happen. That
that
was
would
a
be
funny old
fantastic.
game.
That thing only happens to Spurs.
Of course it does.
But going back to our Champions League campaign, considering now we are in the semi-finals, you've got to look back to 77 minutes against PSV at home. We're 1-0 down. We need 2 goals to save our Champions League campaign. And then Llorente came on.
Funny that.
Saying exactly, changed the game. He got an assist. We got 2 goals in that game. And then we beat Inter. We got that draw at Barcelona. We just haven't looked back, have we?
Llorente's had such a big part to play in this.
Llorente had a bigger part to play in that goal at the Nou Camp than I think a lot of people think. Because he was just there being a nuisance. Because he was there, he was another body. Lucas Moura's free, and he's got the tap in. Look, I've always been a big advocate for Llorente. I think he gets a really difficult time of it. He's not match fit a lot of the time because he's not playing. He gets 5 or 6 minutes a game, and people say, "Oh yeah, he scored a hat-trick against Tranmere this season and against Rochdale last season. He only scores against them." So many teams he plays against. I don't care if those are the only games he's scoring. It's the only games he's playing in.
But I think when you're looking at Llorente, last season people did have a case for Llorente not influencing games or doing the business, but this season's a completely different kettle of fish.
I just think it's because last season, or as is very much the case anyways, the whole thing is built to suit your best players normally, and obviously our best player is Kane, so the whole thing's fit to suit him in every which way. And whenever Llorente comes in, there is sometimes you need to adapt, and people will say, well, what are they doing the whole week in training? Yeah, I get it, but when you cross the white line at the same time, you're in a bit of a zone, and they're trying to play in a way as if Kane is still there, and I think we struggled to adapt to that, particularly last season. I think this season, after the Chelsea game, in the semi-final, and because I think for 20 minutes between half-time and him actually going off, we were playing in a way that finally suited him, and of course he scores. So
I think you're right. I think we have a kind of adapted our play. We have learned how to play with Llorente.
Look, and people have said Spurs need a striker. They don't.
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
We tried to bring in a young striker from the Dutch league in Janssen, and for whatever reason it didn't work. Maybe for similar reasons, he was never going to usurp Kane, and we can never find a way that suited him. And some will say he was never good enough. Maybe he wasn't. Well, we didn't really see enough of him to make that
really
call.
know, will you?
I just think that we've got a world-class striker, and he is exactly that. And Kane's not, it seems anyway, the type of player who's going to get too comfortable from a lack of competition, because he competes with himself. He tries to score more goals year on year. He tries to better himself as a player. So there's his competition. It's all within himself. So having someone with the experience of Llorente, of playing at a World Cup, of playing in Champions Leagues, scored 15
World
goals
Cup winner, isn't he?
Yeah. Scored 15 goals in a team that struggled in the Premier League.
They got relegated, yeah.
I think they stayed up. They stayed up.
That season they stayed up.
But the point I'm alluding to is you're not going to get many better and he is, or I'll even say third string, because the immediate replacement for when Kane is injured is to push Son in towards the middle. So as a third choice striker, you're not going to get many better. So I don't know where this argument is that Spurs need another striker.
And Son obviously performs very well whenever Kane's not in.
Exactly, and I think even then Lucas Moura can fill the void as he's done. He's scored 12 goals this season. So
I think Lamella's even played false number 9 before.
I think you're probably right. So I think you're not going to find a better alternative option, I don't think. And really now we should be looking at extending his deal for another year.
Is his contract up?
I think his contract's up this summer. Extend his for another year. In that time, you can look for another alternative, because obviously he's another year older at that point. It's trying to find another experienced head who's done it, who doesn't mind the role. They know what they come in for. That Llorente would know. He'd have known that he was coming in to be second fiddle to Harry Kane, or even third choice. It'd have been the same had he gone to Chelsea. He'd have been second choice to Morata. The only difference was Morata really struggled after a while, and he might have had a bit more game time. But he'd have known 100% that coming to Spurs, you will be a bit part player as a centre forward anyway.
This might be a bit controversial, I'm about to say, but could that player after Llorente be Giroud?
Why not?
Because he's Gunnar, Chelsea.
Yeah, but we signed Gallas.
Yeah, that's true.
We signed Gallas, who was an experienced centre half, and it was a player that Redknapp desperately wanted. Again,
would Giroud even come to us though? That's the thing.
Why would he swap the bench at Chelsea for the bench at Spurs?
Because we're better than Chelsea and we're Champions League team.
I think there'll be a few Spurs fans out there who would hate to admit it, but they would happily see Giroud come in. I really think
I've always said Giroud's a very good backup striker. He's very good.
I personally felt he was always very, very undervalued by a lot of Arsenal fans and got a lot of unfair sticks. He scored a lot of goals for them, and again, a lot of important
Very
goals
good
as well.
goals as well.
He does rub me up the wrong way, but if he was to come and to perform for us, then you can't have any qualms about it.
That's the thing. And again, if he was playing in the League Cup, the FA Cup, getting the odd league game here and there, scoring goals and important goals as well, I think there's a lot of Spurs supporters who will say, yeah, we when he comes in and he's doing that, it's fine. All that's forgotten. Everything else is forgotten.
If he scores a winner against Arsenal in the last minute,
it's all forgotten. It is all forgotten.
But I'm just so happy for Llorente, just given the fact all the stick he's taken from Spurs fans for the past 18 months.
In fact, and Sissoko.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very, very similar story to Sissoko. Now he's actually coming in, he's really contributing to the team, and now he's scoring a goal to put us through to the semi-finals. It really summed up that whole evening, I felt, that how we performed, how we were kind of like battening down the hatches.
We got that important goal at Stamford Bridge as well.
Exactly, but I think it sums up that the goal came from a player who's really come back from the deep end, really.
What's great fun was, so I'm going to name drop you, Ollie Davis, hi if you're watching. He told me today to search Llorente in WhatsApp and to have a look back through the Spurs threads and see everyone in our groups, and there's the majority of the people in those groups were slating him right up until the middle of January, even the end of January, even in the Watford game when he missed the sitter, but he then went and scored. And I've sat there the whole time along with him and a couple of others just defending his honour essentially, because I've always felt that someone of Llorente's experience and obvious ability has always had a use that we haven't, as I said before, we haven't used enough or made the most of. I just think
put it on pause there for a second. We're getting a lot of no's and no ways for Giroud.
Oh, fine. That's fine. As I said, I always knew that would happen. And you might have thought that was controversial, as you said it would be.
No, Giroud.
That's fine. There's an obvious reason why from a lot of people.
Yeah. No, but yeah, I'm just.
But as I say, all those people that are saying no, secretly, some of them could be thinking, actually, you know what?
I just think the Llorente kind of sums up this team. Everyone's written us off. Everyone's saying, we're not going to make it through this tie. Everyone, some people have been slating us, and then we come up and in a big moment, and we make it through. And he really stepped up for us. I know it was off his hip. I don't really care. But Fernando Llorente, I think he deserves the last word on this podcast for sure.
Well, what about Musa Sissoko? Go back on your WhatsApp and type Musa Sissoko in.
I was about to say, I'm sure it'll be similar. But to be fair, for the majority of this season, and it is the majority.
For me, he's a player of the season. It's a toss-up between him and Son.
Player of the season.
You mean for Spurs players?
Of course. I'm sorry, I'm not sure if I agree.
Who would you put in?
Son?
No. He's not gone under the radar. Vertonghen this season for me
They're the top three.
Has been our standout player. I really do. The Arsenal game at the Emirates to a side.
Yeah.
Because everyone's allowed a bad game. He defensively in both in truth in both boxes he's such a handful.
Bring back the foe.
And he's yeah, why not? Bring back Robbie Keane, he's tired. Jan for me is the standout. But look, Sissoko's been brilliant. I think but is it a case of has he been brilliant in comparison to what he was?
No, I think he's just been brilliant.
Or has he just been brilliant?
I think he's just been brilliant.
And if it's a case of he's just now been brilliant, he's performing to the level you'd expect from a player in a Champions League team. I think Son...
That cost you 30 million.
It cost you 30 million. Son has obviously been magnificent. Jan, for me, people were going to wax lyrical about Van Dijk this season, and rightly so. But Jan, for me, has been the next best centre-back in the league. For a long time, for me, has been one of the best centre-halves in the world. And I think, really, for me, as I said, the standout player for us this season. But defenders tend not to get... unless I know Terry did with PFA years ago, and King got a lot of it from us as well, but I think Jan and Toby won our Player of the Year a few years ago, didn't he?
Do you think Toby or Jan get in our all-time starting 11?
Alongside King?
Yeah. Well, definitely since we've been alive, that's for sure.
I was going to say, in our lifetime, there is definitely a very strong case for either one of them, or if you're going with a back three for both of them.
Yeah, imagine a back three of King and them two.
Yeah, I just think. I think when I did my lifetime Spurs 11, I think I put Toby in it alongside King.
When did you do it? How long ago?
About a year ago,
okay.
Maybe 2 years ago. I just
so
think
Vertonghen definitely gets in it.
Vertonghen absolutely is just absolutely. He's the one for me.
And looking at Toby for the final also yesterday, didn't look like a guy who wanted.
Another one who really looked like he wanted to leave the club.
He really showed proper passion yesterday.
I just think he's another one who just.
Eriksen was in there in the celebrations as well, so don't read too much.
You know what? I don't really believe any of them are that unhappy. Perhaps it's a case of another year of not winning anything might be
the tipping point.
Because I've always said this year might be the last year that we could get away with not winning a trophy.
You think if we win the Champions League this year, Eriksen signs a deal?
Yes. Actually, I think if we get to the final this year, Eriksen signs a deal.
Interesting.
What about you?
I think there's still a chance. I think there's still a chance.
I can't see it personally.
I think there's still a chance he'll stay.
He's got to shake off this inconsistency that is driving us all crazy. Because I've described him as, in terms of best players at a top club, he's the worst best. He's the one who's the most inconsistent. But if we go back to that game in the Nou Camp, he was absolutely brilliant that night. He was sensational, and he scored again another one. He scored so many important goals for us. The goal against Inter as well is just another one that immediately springs to mind.
But Eriksen, even when he's poor, he still provides an assist.
An assist or a goal, as he did against Palace. Yeah, he's so important.
Everyone's saying how poor he's been, but he's still providing assists every game. But like I said,
out of all of our top players, he is the most replaceable. I think that's universal. So? Yeah, I'd say so. Why? Who would you say otherwise?
Well, clear. I mean, judging just how we perform, even without Kane, compared to how we perform without Eriksen, I think
Kane's not replaceable. Though.
You're talking about a guy who's got the most assists since he's joined the club, like the Premier League.
Even this season, he's got the most assists in the league.
Look, I'm not for a second suggesting I want us to sell Eriksen.
Yeah, I know.
Far from it.
I think players like Eriksen are harder to come by. I really do.
They're difficult to come by. I just think he is replaceable. I'm not saying.
I agree with you. He's replaceable. I think every player is replaceable apart from Harry Kane.
I think he is the most replaceable out of the lot, but that's just me being harsh.
Fair enough.
Even more than Dele Alli or Son.
Yeah, but anyone who knows me knows how highly I rate Dele Alli. I think he's just extraordinary.
That's something I don't like. Dele Alli, you could argue he's been inconsistent. Even last year, he was inconsistent for large portions of the season, but no one was saying he wanted to leave because of it.
I think Dele's a lot younger and a lot earlier on in his career, isn't he?
I also think at times this season, before his injury in January, Dele was extraordinary.
Yeah, and I think he's been brilliant since he's come back.
And yeah, I think he's, as young players go, as young talents go, it's a lot of what he does off the ball as well, and the amount of space he allows for Eriksen and for Kane, and he scores so many important goals. I think the guy is just an incredible talent.
I agree. I rate Dele Alli very highly, but how he formed with a broken hand yesterday, you got to give him so much credit. He really dug deep for the team. But I think we have run out of time.
Yeah.
All right. David, it's been an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure, James.
Do you want to plug anything? Twitter? For people follow you on Twitter?
Yeah, on Twitter at DavidDom11. Don't tweet very often. Every now and again I do though. And I'm on Instagram at DDom11. Generally games that I'm at. So. And
where can they find you on the way where you're going to be broadcasting or anything?
So I read the news on TalkSport. I read the sports news predominantly, but I do the current affairs news if people want to refer to it as that. Present a rolling news show on LBC London News on Global. Do a bit of tennis commentary as well. So
you're going to be doing the Wimbledon.
So I won't be doing Wimbledon. And have been doing some football reporting as well over my career. So so I do quite a fair bit in the media world. Thoroughly enjoy it. I'm very lucky that people have given me these opportunities. I'm very privileged as well. So thank you to all of them, and thanks to all the amazing support that I've had, and from you two guys as well. Because I've known Ben for many years, and he's always been in my corner. So a big thank you to you. Gives me a chance to say that publicly. So yeah, you can hear me around various forms of the media world. So hopefully, one day maybe somewhere a bit more permanent. But for now, I'm enjoying doing the various bits and pieces that I do. So
you're going to see you in Amsterdam? Are you going to come?
I'm working on it.
We saw you in Amsterdam not so long, was it?
Won't have been me. You saw me in Ghent.
Ghent. We saw you in Ghent. Yeah.
For the Europa. Look, saying this now, you don't want me to go to a European away game because it's played 2, lost 2, no goals scored. So, so I went to Besiktas a few years ago.
I'll tell you what, up until a year ago, since last year's Champions League journey, I don't think I saw an away win in the Champions League.
No, fairs. I mean,
maybe Milan.
It took until my 7th Premier League game to see away from home. That is to see a Premier League win. So
you just need a bit of a cushion, and then you'll be all right.
So I don't know. A Europe, maybe in the Champions League I'll have a bit more luck than in the Europa League. So we'll see.
Just one quick. Cole Josie says, "What did Grandpa think of the game yesterday?"
I like him.
I like him. I'd like to say Grandpa said in all his 82 years he's never seen anything like yesterday. So that was his opinion on the game. But anyway, thank you everyone for all your comments, your likes, and thank you for joining us on the live stream. We are in the Champions League semi-finals. I'm never going to get bored of saying that, but I'm still buzzing from the game. But thank you everyone for tuning in, and as always,
Come on, you Spurs.
Spurs.